An epic 49ers victory. Remember the score. It's going to go down in history. 23-19.
Hey guys, as I said every week, man, I can't tell you guys how proud of this team I am. You guys, like the fact that we had 2 linebackers play that game that weren't on our team a month ago, and not to mention Garrett, Eric, the fact that you guys were ready for that, and not to mention, I think you guys balled your ass off, man. You guys were all over the place, man. So much love, so much respect. Thank both of you guys, man. Guys, losing George like that, like at the beginning. Is George in here? Love you, dude. Thank you for everything, man. Hey, guys, all we asked for was another shot, dude. I wanted another shot. You guys earned that in the best way possible, man. All right, we got to get home. All right, guys, I can't thank you guys more for allowing us to do this. Enjoy the night. All right, love you guys.
Hey, enjoy it, man. We earned it, bro. We earned another week with our brothers. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We're not finished, man. We're not finished. We still writing our book now. Let's go now. Niners on 3. 1, 2, 3. Niners!
I just stepped out of the 49ers locker room where I got to enjoy the fresh aftermath of history. Remember that the dynastic 49ers, led by Joe Montana and Steve Young, won only 1 road playoff game over their 2 decades. Well, the 49ers just beat the defending Super Bowl champions on the road, extremely shorthanded. Brock Purdy's already been doing Joe Montana-esque things throughout his young career. He added something today that even number 16 never was able to accomplish. So cherish it and cherish the backstories, such as the fact that George Kittle, who tore today on this field, was in that locker room when 49ers owner Jed York came in, and Jed asked George, is there anything I can bring you? And George said, a bottle of tequila would be nice. A few minutes later, a bottle of tequila was in that 49ers locker room, perhaps to numb some of the pain that George Kittle was feeling, perhaps to increase his enjoyment of the game, perhaps both. But a couple hours later, the 49ers had prevailed on this field in Philadelphia, one of the most hostile environments in the NFL. This was absolutely sensational, from the performance of Brock Purdy, overcoming adversity in those 2 interceptions by Quinyon Mitchell, to the performance of the 49ers defense, which held on this end zone with Eric Kendricks. You can always trust guys from the 5.59 to deliver. Shout out to Hoover High School in Fresno. Kendricks, double-digit tackles, and the pass breakup for the 49ers to get things done. But the first person that we have to hear from is Brock Purdy himself, because he was joined by a second elite quarterback on this field. That was Jauan Jennings on the trick play. The jet sweep to Sky Moore, the pitch back to Jennings, and the throw to Christian McCaffrey. Well, that was an elite catch from Christian McCaffrey over his helmet. But remember that Jauan Jennings was ranked higher than Joe Burrow as a quarterback in his college recruiting class. He played quarterback at Murfreesboro High School in Tennessee. And I was in that locker room when I saw John Lynch. I talked to him for a few minutes, and he talked about the resilience that the 49ers had shown. And then he saw Jauan Jennings, and John sprinted over toward Jauan, gave him a big hug, and he said, there's my top-rated high school quarterback recruit from Blackman High School in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Anyway, we've got to hear from Brock Purdy on that magical play that gave the 49ers the lead.
I was on the edge, sort of blocking, sort of not in the play, and then I look back, I see JJ get hit, and I was like, dang, dude, should I have done something about that? And then I look up, and the ball's in the air, and Christian tracked it. It was wobbling in the wind, and the fact that Christian caught it over his shoulder, dude, I was like, oh my gosh. And I looked back to JJ, and I was like, you're all right, and then celebrated. So it was a really cool play. I mean, JJ's he's a baller when it comes to that. He did the same thing in the Super Bowl, took a hit, threw it to Christian on a trick play for a touchdown. So those two are pretty cool to watch.
As you can tell, it's windy out here in Philadelphia, and Brock Purdy was talking about that. That made the catch so insanely difficult. It actually happened right here. Christian McCaffrey sprinting downfield. The 49ers had created separation. They had to find a way to manufacture separation today. Down Kittle, down Brandon Ayuk, and down Ricky Pearsall. And Christian McCaffrey just had to make that play. So San Francisco would cash in on the trick play opportunity. You only have so many bullets that you can fire. And Kyle Shanahan tried to fire one with a trick play last week against Seattle, and the Seahawks were ready for it. They were in the right look. Today, the 49ers caught the Eagles dead to rights in the wrong look. Kyle Shanahan's play calling genius came through, and Christian McCaffrey, a future Hall of Famer, delivered when it mattered most. And, Juwan took a hit from Jalen Carter. It was an unnecessary roughness penalty. It was roughing the passer. And one, Juwan Jennings yelled at his press conference. And then Juwan yelled, when somebody mentioned Seattle, he said, "Can't wait," and walked off the podium back into the locker room. That was the end of the interview. Yes, the 49ers have earned a chance to play the ferocious Seattle Seahawks defense again. And based on all my conversations in the 49ers locker room, this is the matchup that they want. To be 100% honest, a Carolina matchup would have been bullshit. That would have been an 8-9 team, or I guess a 9-9 team had they beaten the Rams. But this 49ers team, the point of this journey, the reason that this is a Hollywood script is because they are making it as hard as possible, and they are succeeding against the greatest odds. They would go and wipe the floor with Carolina. Brock Purdy is a lot better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. There wouldn't have been an issue for the 49ers in Carolina. But to go into Seattle with this next challenge, now we're talking. Now we're talking about the hardest possible path. Now we're talking about stuff of legends. Already what happened on this field today is something the dynastic 49ers never did, knocking off a defending Super Bowl champ on the road. Just didn't happen for San Francisco back in the day. They lost the game 49-3 in 1986 to the New York Giants. They lost to Washington in the 1983 season in the NFC Championship game on the road. It is tough to go on the road and win a playoff game, but this 49ers team is all about taking the hardest possible path, and Seattle is the next step in that progression. Now, speaking of taking a very hard path, when Kittle went down, I talk about the math for the 49ers, and the math really just didn't add up for San Francisco because, yes, you had Trent Williams back, but you were missing Ricky Pearsall, who didn't play. You're already missing Brandon Ayuk, who quit on the football team. Down Kittle, those are three of your main space makers. When you don't have space makers downfield, the only way to establish sustained offensive success in a reasonable world is to run the football. And the 49ers didn't run the football today. They spent most of the game averaging -2 expected points per outside zone run. They averaged less than 2 yards per carry for much of this game, so they didn't have a run game. They didn't have separation. It forced Brock Purdy to walk the ultimate tightrope, and Kyle Juszczyk explained in the locker room just how difficult that is.
You know the scheme.
Yeah.
An X's and O's for Brock to walk today. Just
huge. I mean, so tough because, like you said, those are our separators. Those are our man beaters. Those are the guys that can go out and win against anybody. So Brock just has to be extra precise, and if guys aren't getting the separation that some of those guys that we lost would typically get, he's got to be able to fit it in there. And I think time and time again, he's stepped up and shown he can do that.
So when the math broke against the 49ers, when it no longer worked in their favor, they had to find ways to even out the math. They had to find ways to steal some points. The trick play, which will go down in 49ers history, the second touchdown pass that Juwan Jennings has thrown in the playoffs. Remember the Super Bowl, similar to what they did trick play-wise against the Rams back in that 2021 season, although it was Jennings on the catching side of that ball. That play changed the math in the 49ers' favor. But very early in the game, they also had a great scripted drive that put them into a very quick lead, which was very, very critical. This was the Demarcus Robinson game. 6 catches, 111 yards for Demarcus Robinson. And I talked to him in the 49ers locker room, and he said he had a good idea that the football was going to be coming in his direction on that first drive. Kendrick Bourne was shouting in the tunnel before this game about a fast start for the 49ers. Kendrick Bourne was spot on with that analysis, and they knew that first drive they'd be able to catch Quinyon Mitchell, the Eagles cornerback, napping. They thought that they'd be able to catch him peeking into the backfield. So they didn't run a single outside zone play at all last week against the Seahawks with no Trent Williams. But with Big Trent back for this football game, the 49ers ran outside zone on the first play. It was a 2-yard loss, but what happened is that Quinyon Mitchell was caught looking into the backfield right there where I'm pointing the camera. And on the second play, he also thought the 49ers might run again, and that's when Demarcus Robinson was able to beat him over the top for the 60-plus yard gain. A couple plays after that, in the red zone, the 49ers delivered. How? Double fake from Brock Purdy, including a fake pitch right outside zone to Christian McCaffrey, and it opened up the touchdown pass to Demarcus Robinson against Quinyon Mitchell. Just masterful stuff from Kyle Shanahan, who dug deep into his bag today. This was the highest success rate that a Vic Fangio defense had ever given up. That takes a play caller in his bag, and it takes an elite quarterback, especially when the weapons aren't there. I mean, this is Tom Brady type of stuff that we saw on this field today. Yes, even if you include the interceptions, Quinyon Mitchell got Brock Purdy twice. But again, when you are walking a tightrope, that's going to happen. It's impossible to deliver a perfect game under the circumstances that Purdy did. The fact that he delivered the game-winning drive culminated by the touchdown to Christian McCaffrey right here. Look, we've got the boots in the Philadelphia end zone. We could even walk on the Philadelphia Eagles logo. I'm sure that might not please them, but they don't have any games left to play at the stadium this year. The defending Super Bowl champs have been eliminated. Their title defense has failed. And this is where Christian McCaffrey beat them on the throw from Brock Purdy, who stepped up in the pocket. Now, because Purdy did blink twice with those 2 interceptions, we saw a scenario where the 49ers defense had to step up. And that's where the true magic happened, and that's why the 49ers are going to be confident heading into Seattle. This defense played, I would say, a legendary game. And there is now a real chance that Fred Warner can return for the next 49ers game. The NFC Championship might be more likely, so maybe the 49ers need to continue building a bridge to the return of Warner, but it gets very, very interesting leading up to this game against the Seattle Seahawks in the Pacific Northwest next weekend. So the 49ers defense, which had, even in the game against Seattle, where they only gave up 13 points, they'd been struggling. They'd given up the 3rd and 17. They had let Seattle bleed the clock on them at the end of the game, therefore nullifying any potential chance to come back. This was a maligned unit. This was a struggling unit. This was a decimated unit. They manned up today in one of the most storybook ways possible. Eric Kendricks, who is the 4th starting middle linebacker for this 49ers team, who is the representative of the bridge building project back to Fred Warner, stepped in with those double-digit tackles. And you have to remember that he didn't join this team until November 26th. So he's been learning the playbook over the course of the last month and a half. He's been in KJ Wright's office. KJ Wright, the former Seattle Seahawks linebacker on those Legion of Boom teams, he's on the 49ers staff now. He has been working extra hours to make sure that Eric Kendricks has picked up this playbook. And then Garrett Wallow, everybody was talking all this crap about Garrett Wallow over the course of the week. He had a few bad reps, I get it, against the Seattle Seahawks in Week 18. But the 49ers needed Wallow to step up, and boy, did he step up for San Francisco today. Double-digit tackles for Garrett Wallow as well. They had awesome linebacker play today, to the point where they were able to overcome the fact that the pass rush is completely depleted. I mean, there is always a path, but sometimes it's just extremely narrow, and the 49ers have found a way to specialize in succeeding when the path is most treacherous. You have to give credit to Keon White, who's fighting through a groin and a hamstring injury. Robert Saleh, the Eagles picked up an early 3rd and 15, or they set it up for a tush push on 4th down. 49ers didn't bring any pressure. And Robert Saleh said, oh boy, this is going to be tough. So the next time that the Eagles faced a 3rd and long, he blitzed Garrett Wallow, and he left the cornerback, Renato Green, out on an island against A.J. Brown, who finished with only 25 receiving yards, and the 49ers succeeded. Later in the game, there was another critical Philadelphia 3rd down, and Saleh said, well, I need some pressure, but blitzes only work a finite amount of the time. Who's going to win their pass rushing rep? Chris Kasarik is a genius. And Chris Kasarik, they traded for Keon White. Remember, everybody's saying, oh, well, the Eagles, they traded for Jalen Phillips. They're more serious than the 49ers. John Lynch didn't get the credit he deserved trading for Keon White, who changed this game on that 3rd down, rushing from the inside right here, just as the 49ers had envisioned on this part of the field, standing up, not even in a 3-point stance, rushing on 3rd down, flushing Jalen Hurts out that way, forcing the throwaway, incompletion. Eagles punted. That stop ended up being the difference in the game. The 49ers had heroes at all levels of this. And they go back to the front office, which loaded this team up at the right positions in a reset year. I mean, the fact that they're in this position, having won 13 games, heading to the divisional playoffs, having knocked off the defending world champions, the fact that they're in this position in a reset year is crazy. The fact that they're in this position in a year reset year with a mass injury event, which continued today with George Kittle getting hurt and drinking tequila in the locker room, is even wilder. I cannot overstate that what you are seeing is a Hollywood script. It is that special. Speaking of Saleh, we got to get Kyle Shanahan's thoughts on his superstar defensive coordinator.
He was unbelievable today. Just the plan that he put together, keeping it somewhat simple but still challenging. Having new guys in there, you got to somewhat keep it simple, but anytime you got a quarterback with a running element, all the RPOs they do, the wideouts that they have on the outside, the talent of their running back, their tight end, was a huge challenge, and they did a hell of a job all day with it.
Saleh, a superstar. You know who else is a superstar? Brock Purdy. Let's hear from him on how he was able to keep his composure today following those 2 second-half interceptions to Quinyon Mitchell.
The game's still there to go take, so I was just being real with myself and obviously like leaning into my faith and understanding that, I got to hold all this loosely, but, try to go do God's will, man, and that's every drive. And so, same thing happened at the end of the game. We needed to go do it, and so I just kept my mind fresh and go play one play at a time. Every play has a life of its own, and still have that attack mentality every single play. So that's how I did it.
One of the coolest long-term parts of this is that the 49ers, by the end of this game, they were playing 4 rookies on defense because there was an injury at the safety position to Jair Brown. So Marquise Siegel, who began this year as a starter but then got benched, he had struggled in coverage, is right back in there. And obviously he's progressed a ton. He's been doing his homework even while he's been on the sideline. So he was delivering for the 49ers by the end. CJ West and Alfred Collins have grown big time for the 49ers. They too were delivering for San Francisco up front. And then I thought that Upton Stout might have been the best 49ers defensive player on the field. It has been a tremendous success story of that 2025 draft. And all of those guys now have, I think, in essence, 3 playoff games under their belts. Because the 49ers played the Bears game like a playoff game. They played Week 18 like a playoff game. And this was a playoff game. Now they're going to get a 4th one, and the rookies continue to blossom. The George Kittle injury, it is a changing of the guard moment because he's going to be 33 next year. He's going to be coming off of an Achilles. The 49ers obviously have to take the strategy of replenishing the offense with younger talent that fits around Brock Purdy. Even when George Kittle will return, they have to be insulated around him. It just goes to show you that there's constantly going to be this filtration on a football team of bringing in the youth, the fresh crop, the replenishers. And the Kittle injury might have happened on the offensive side, but we've seen the 49ers have to replenish their defense this year. And that effort has, by and large, been successful based on what they were able to do on this field today. They gave up only 4.3 yards per play against the defending Super Bowl champs. They bottled up Jalen Hurts. They generally bottled up Saquon Barkley. I think there was one truly explosive run early where Deommodore Lenoir got caught in the mess inside, didn't hold the edge. But boy, what a performance from that 49ers defense, which includes Bryce Huff. The former Eagle, he had a tackle for loss today. The Eagles traded him away. The crowd doesn't like Bryce Huff. He was a Super Bowl inactive. Jordan Mailata, the Eagles' left tackle, was taunting Bryce Huff over the course of this week, or I guess mocking him over the course of this week, calling him Super Bowl champ very derisively because Huff had been inactive in that Super Bowl win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, Huff today had the sack. The crowd booed him, and well, I got a chance to ask Huff about that whole course of events.
Did a big tackle for loss, and then the crowd responded. There was some boos there. Did you hear that? And what did that moment mean for you?
I just thought it was funny. So that's all they can do is boo. At the end of the day, I'm the one on the field. I have control of my performance, and just booing was just funny to me, honestly.
What a great, mature answer. Bryce Huff was able to get the last laugh against Philadelphia today. Now the 49ers have a grudge match against the Seattle Seahawks coming up.
Can't wait! Can't wait!
What happened on this field in Philadelphia is stuff of legend. Brock Purdy stood, where was he? Probably about right here. We'll bring the boots to the part of the field where Brock Purdy was moving. He looked up this way. He found Christian McCaffrey, stepped up in the pocket. McCaffrey caught the touchdown. and the 49ers took the lead. And then, you know, talking to guys in the locker room, several prominent players told me that there was a sense of calm in that last drive. They knew that the 49ers defense was going to get the job done. So while your hearts might have been in your throats, the 49ers rested on the resilience that they've shown already this year. There was a feeling that they were going to find a way. And of course, they did find a way on the opposite end zone to seal this game and seal a trip to Philadelphia. So after that, the 49ers went this way. We're going to walk into the tunnel. We're going to take this into the locker room, and we're going to send everyone off into a victory week for the 49ers ahead of a massive, massive playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks. 23-19, the final here. I'm going to take you into the 49ers locker room literally right now as we walk, but I'm also going to take you there through some of the videos that we got of the 49ers interviews. Earlier today, this was the spot where the 49ers came out of the tunnel. It was loud, it was hostile, but they got the job done. They walked by this field club over here. Everything is green. This whole city is going to be very, very sad tonight. You could see them packing up all the TV equipment, and you could still see the path that the 49ers took. We're walking in reverse direction now as we move toward the locker room that's hosted the 49ers for 2 straight wins now over Philadelphia. The spanking that they administered in 2023, and now one of the most dramatic wins that you'll ever see. Definitely one of the most dramatic in franchise history. 23-19.
I heard you yelling in the tunnel before the game about a fast start. Did you guys have a good idea that the plan that Kyle had cooked up for that first drive would have the success that it did?
Yeah, it was awesome. D-Rob, my guy, came out with a huge play, yakking, running. It was just awesome. But that's always the mentality, is to try to start fast, just reiterating as a player, trying to bring positive energy. You know, having guys hear it sometimes goes a long way. When nobody's saying nothing, you never know. So just saying that throughout the game was important. So we started fast. It was good for us. It helped us.
I did. I really did. I was scared for a little bit. But after I heard the screams, I'm just like, yeah, CMC had to make a great catch. Because coming off my hand, I definitely thought I threw it a little bit too far.
Have you seen the replay of the catch that he made? And if you have, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I saw just a little bit, quick action. I'm just catching a little clip. And I thought it was a great catch, you know. That's what I thought. I thought it was a great catch. He took it all the way to the ground and was very much needed.
But, I mean, that's a big part of his makeup, and that's the reason why he is Brock Purdy, and he made himself a household name for the 7th-round pick. That resolve, that ability to be able to bounce back, never get too high, never get too low. Coordinator in the land, and you know it shows you why. Obviously, he doesn't have his big dogs, the guys that you know, the perennial All-Pros and Pro Bowlers, but he motivates those guys. He knows how to deliver his message in a way that stimulates the group, and they play for each other. They play together.
On that Jawan pass, like, is that motion?
Say it again?
The motion that Sky goes in on that Jawan pass, yeah. Exits the nose. Like, what does that motion do to the defense that's, like, particular to that play that makes it effective?
It's a great question. One for Kyle.
Yeah.
But Sky's our returner, and so when he goes in what is called a jet motion, it's going to get defense's attention. They're going to have to react quickly, and on that one, he went back and forth twice. And so it's just there's a lot of communication that has to be had, and typically, you know, when guys have to make more than one call, there's a good chance that they can, you know, make a mistake, and guys are kind of looking at one another where they should be.
When it comes to the offense to make the big plays that you had to, how they execute, talk about the offense and the comps you guys had this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, this defense is, our offense is extremely confident that in any scenario that we can go out there and go make plays. So it really doesn't matter, you know, what's happened earlier in the game. We know that we can go out there and execute and score a lot of points, and 23 was all we needed today.
What does this feel like for some of those guys who experienced that heartbreak a few years ago who were on this team?
Honestly, we moved on from that. You know, we came back here in 23 and won. So, you know, in my eyes, you know, that I don't really think too much about 22 anymore. That was a long time ago. So still felt like a great win.
Moving on to Seattle, another rubber match now, and surviving and dancing. And what's the key for them? Once you base the ball, what you've seen before, and has this come down to execution? I mean, you guys know each other very well.
Yeah, I just, I don't want to speak from the offensive side because that's what I play, and we just need to execute better. It really comes down to that. We had a lot of missed assignments in our last matchup with them, and if we can just buckle in on the game plan, go out there and execute how we know we can. Our defense held them to 13 points last time we played, and that's an incredible feat. So we know that we can score more than 3, and we plan on doing so.
When you lose George, you're then down like in the big picture, BA, down Ricky, down George, the guys that create space. You're also not running the ball well. How hard of a tightrope was that? You know the scheme, an X's and O's for Brock to walk today, just
huge. I mean, so tough because, like you said, like those are our separators. Those are our man beaters. Those are the guys that can go out and win against anybody. So Brock just has to be extra precise, and if guys aren't getting the separations that some of those guys that we lost would typically get, he's got to be able to fit it in there. And I think time and time again, he's stepped up and shown he can do that.
As you were walking back,
Did a great job going through his progression and seeing what the defense was giving us, and was able to get to me at the right time.
Juice, when you talk about the resilience of this team, where does that come from? Is that coaching? Is that you guys? Where do these guys?
It's both. It's both. We have an incredible head coach who he really truly instills a toughness in this team like no other, and I think we just have so many guys on this team that just refuse to give up, refuse to quit, and the leaders up top have just done a great job of creating a culture that we're going to fight for one another, no matter what.
To get Seattle a third time,
I can't wait. That's the best team. That's the team I was hoping. George is different. That's the heart and soul of our team. He brings so much energy, and just what an incredible player that he is. So that definitely hurts a lot. But even when he was down, he was still positive. Like I came in at halftime, and he was smiling, and he said, "I'm not dead yet, man. And I'll be back. Go win it," and that meant a lot. And guys just continue to step up and find ways. Even when we lose our best players, and we did enough to get the win.
You take the loss to Seattle. You tell this speech in the locker room to the guys to kind of help them understand the importance of the playoffs and seizing the moment. And then Coach comes in and says you guys have to play out of desperation. Now you guys are headed back to Seattle. How much of this carries over into?
Did a big tackle for loss, and then the crowd responded. There was some boos there. Did you hear that? And what did that moment mean for you?
I just thought it was funny. It's just like that's all they can do is boo. At the end of the day, like I'm the one on the field. I have control of my performance, and just booing was just funny to me, honestly. I was waiting for me, so it's good to be back and good to compete.
Was this a game that you had circled, given what happened at the end of last year and the way that you got traded?
Not necessarily. A lot of people talk to me a lot about revenge games, this revenge game, that all week, but that didn't really motivate me. It was more so just like me and these guys have worked our butts off this whole season, and I just wanted to continue doing that for another week at the very least. We had to come out here and get that dub just to continue the season and give us a chance at the Super Bowl. So that was my motivation for this week.
And what did Robert tell you guys heading into this game in terms of controlling this offense?
Not running past the quarterback. Jalen has dynamic in QB run scenarios, and then really just doing everything we can to get on Saquon early and often.
I haven't won in Philly in a while, so it feels good for the soul. Obviously, under the circumstances, me and Garrett, gotta give a shout out to Garrett Wallow. He was excellent in communication. I always judge other linebackers based on when things are super thick out, and things aren't going our way, how well you're able to communicate and how well you're able to stay calm, and he checked those boxes, so shout out to him. That was a big moment for both of us, just to come in and obviously it's been next man up kind of mentality this whole year with unfortunately with all the injuries, and I'm just happy that we can come through for everybody. Man, shout out to KJ. KJ Wright. I've been in kind of just knocking on his meeting door. Getting extra time with him since I got here. So whether it's super early in the morning or after meetings, I feel like
he's got me prepared. We went through a bunch of situations, watched a bunch of film together. He's got stamina as a coach. So, obviously we know what kind of player he was. But, it's been nice to, bounce my old playbook off him and kind of compare it to this new one and get the similarities and the differences, because that's kind of like, this is my, I think, 4th defense in a row. So it's like, you have to be able to compare and contrast and, just get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter and kind of lock in on the new concepts. So I feel like we got a pretty good grasp of that pretty early.
Can't wait! Can't wait!